Torrid fits don't miss. From life-changing jeans to cute tops and dresses to bras that are actually comfortable, Torrid has your dream wardrobe covered in sizes 10 to 30. Discover Torrid's unforgettable new brands like Breezy Romantic Festy, Goth and Gorgeous Nightfall, Vintage Retro Chic, and Preppy Pretty Belle Isle. Torrid, for every day, every way, and everything you are. Shop Torrid.com and use promo code PODCAST40 for 40% off your first online order. Terms and conditions will apply. Void where prohibited.
Pacifico is a Mexican lager brewed to be discovered. It's like fresh tracks on a powder day. Like that uncharted trail a stone's throw away. Like the perfect wave on a sunny day. Pacifico. Find your own way. 21 plus. Drink responsibly. Imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, a group of middle-aged women are wooed online by a handsome guy, only to be bilked for thousands and thousands of dollars. Then they come face to face with the man and demand answers. We'll talk about Hey Beautiful, Anatomy of a Romance Scam. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, beautiful.
Okay, I'll take it. Also with us, I don't care because you are who you are, apparently.
You don't know. This photo could be anybody.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, beautiful.
Hey, what you doing?
Kevin, you're mine.
She's beautiful, too.
Back off, Laura.
Hey, this guy got around. What can I say?
And finally, our resident doubting Thomas, author of the City trilogy of novels, host of Rip Current, Strange Arrivals, More Like Ancient Phalians, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hey, beautiful.
Hey, thanks, Kevin.
Kevin.
It make everybody feels good, right?
Yeah, I feel much better. I'm psyched to do the show now.
I'm so glad. So, Kevin.
Yes.
This is Thursday's podcast.
It's just Thursday's podcast.
What's coming up on Monday's program?
On Monday, we're going to talk about the 3-part series from HBO. It's called The Mortician.
All right. 3 parts.
Yeah. It's on Monday. The finale is on this Sunday, so we'll have a hot, fresh take on that.
A hot, fresh take on the final episode? Instead of guessing what happens and sounding real stupid when our show comes out?
They sent us screeners ahead of time, so we'll know what it is.
Remember how we used to do that? We used to do, let's guess what's going to happen, and nobody was ever right about anything. Anyway, so Toby, how have people reacted in your life to the news of your big film situation? Your podcast, Strange Arrivals, is being made, of course, into a major motion picture with Coleman Domingo and Demi Moore. Have people been talking to you about it?
Yeah, somewhat. When I run into people at the local bagel place or catching up with my friends or whatever, they all want to know what the scoop is. So it's been kind of cool talking to people about it.
I think Toby needs to affect more of a Hollywood vibe, right? I think you should walk around with a beret.
Yeah, I've got a beret. I've got those little skinny cigarettes. I usually
the round glasses.
Smoking.
Yeah, I like that idea. You should get like a little pencil thin mustache and an ascot.
I've also now I have some people.
By the way,
you have people. Toby has people.
Yeah.
When you say Hollywood vibe, what exactly are you talking about? Like 1930s?
It's timeless.
I mean, I think
he needs some blingy sunglasses.
He needs one of those large megaphones.
And
I need one of those cool folding chairs. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen.
Bring that folding chair to the bagel place. Set it up.
Just set it up.
Yep.
Just
you're like
quiet on the set.
Okay, we're going back to 1.
Do they have salt bagels at your bagel place?
Irrationally pissed off at people? Probably. I don't know.
They're getting harder and harder to find, and I love
salt
me a salt
bagels?
bagel. The best.
All right.
The very best kind of bagel.
I'll look into it next time I'm there.
Yeah, look into it and report back, and maybe I'll come over and have a bagel with you at your bagel place. Unless you're not too big for to hang out with your friends.
I have a private section at the bagel place now.
Is this why you can't come to our party that we're having this weekend? Because you're too big for us?
No, because my family's coming back from foreign lands.
Yeah.
Don't sound so disappointed that your family's coming home.
No, I'm just sad that I'm not going to be there to share in the good
I think
vibes.
he's sad that he's losing his empty nester status.
Empty nester. Yes.
Toby's going to be more famous because by the time this podcast comes out, my article that I wrote about Toby will be in our statewide newspaper.
There we
All
go.
right.
Then he's going to go Hollywood.
Yeah,
bigger.
totally
Then
go
they're going to be
Hollywood.
like, it's Toby Ball.
Did you have to
Toby
make a
Ball.
disclosure in your story that you have a professional relationship with Toby?
I did. And I pitched it and I said, hey, this is a really cool story. It's really a feature story. It's not, like controversial. And they're like, oh, you can just write it. I'm like, okay, cool.
All right.
Is there a photo? Was there a photo shoot?
No, I took Toby's images that he already had done, his headshot.
Oh, the headshot when he's like...
From 2005?
Yeah, I took that one. I took
It's all
the...
pixelated?
No
Come
shade.
on.
I use my old ass headshots all the time too.
I honestly have not had a professional photo taken since I
Same.
don't know when.
I did, and it was sad for me, so I like to use the old one.
We need to have photos done. We
Yeah.
do the
We
four
should.
of us.
Yeah.
Let's do it, Kevin.
All right, I'm on it.
All right, let's get it done. All right, Kevin, should we talk about the thing we're talking about on this podcast?
Let's do it.
All right, leading off.
Very handsome. He looked like he had it all together. He was working out at the gym. And he had a nice body. It's like, yeah, he was very hot. Even he had to send me a picture of him with his little bum. It's like, woo.
3 older women fell in love online with the same handsome man who popped up in their feeds. Using different names and cover stories, the Romeo scammed them out of thousands of dollars and then disappeared.
I was foolish. It should have never happened. But I fell for it. And I was angry.
With broken hearts and empty pockets, the women scour the internet looking for the man who ripped them off. But when they find him in Los Angeles, they learn he's the victim of the scam, too.
I am not Michael Silver. I'm not Scott Donald Hall. The person I really am goes much deeper than that. I have secrets of my own.
From ABC News Studios and Anchor Entertainment, the 3-part series Hey Beautiful, Anatomy of a Romance Scam is now streaming on Hulu. The show recounts the ways each of the women were charmed and cheated and their unlikely connection to an unsuspecting makeup artist. It also follows the pursuit of the international networks of swindlers who have literally written the book on this kind of scam. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from Hey Beautiful, Anatomy of a Romance Scam. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Laura, I swear to God, people with this same picture have tried to friend me on Facebook and DM me on social platforms. Has this happened to you where you've gotten the military guy or the widowed guy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I get them all the time. And I'm like, okay, as soon as it pops up and they have no friends and they have the picture like widowed, living in Texas, or the surgeon working overseas with Doctors Without Borders, I'm like, delete, report, delete all the time. And also those people, like as I was watching this, I'm like, thank God I'm not online dating anymore because they were in there too. I had a bot one time that was trying to write to me and I was like, are you a bot? Why would I be a bot? I'm like, because you're a bot.
I didn't say bot. Why did you say bot?
Yeah. Why would you think I am a bot? I'm like, really? Okay, if you live in this town, which restaurants do you like? All the good ones. I'm like,
But Laura, how ugly was the guy who worked on the oil rig that they had to like Photoshop someone's face on him? Couldn't they just keep him?
I know. Well, I was like, oh, the oil rig guy. It like looks like his hat's like barely on his head in that photo.
Yeah.
It's like, hello.
Well, you could see a second pair of ears.
Yeah.
Coming from, they didn't.
Yeah, my mom's partner, Steve, if you look him up on the internet, it looks like a romance scam photo because he like worked in Antarctica as a geologist and you see him standing in his like big Canada Goose Antarctica coat with like the Antarctica mountains behind him and there's like a big equipment and stuff. And I'm like,
And a tiger.
this is a romance scam photo, like for the ages. So I don't want to put that idea in anybody's heads, but Steve, you could probably get some ladies on Facebook if you
Make
wanted
a lot of money.
So Kevin, why do you think this is like the Tinder swindler for a different generation, as you said in one of your notes?
Well, I mean, because it kind of is. We've seen a couple of these romance scam podcasts, and usually when they target women, it's usually young women and a hot guy, and that's the cast of characters. We've yet to see one where we have the victims are women of a certain age, we'll say, and it brings up sort of different motivations It's not just, like hot sex. It's, there's a little more loneliness there. And we hear that from some of the women explaining like why in their 30th or 40th year of marriage or whatever it is that they're suddenly chatting with somebody else, why that attention, draws them. And so that's, and even the, the con guy, the photo is not a good looking, like really good looking guy, but not somebody like in their 20s. So I found interesting here what makes this different is that sort of those roles are all sort of jumbled.
Yeah.
And it's also, so it's like, to me, that's why I was like, it's like the Tinder swindler, but mixed around with sort of a different thing. And it was also like Love Janessa. When you get into Brian's situation where, I don't know, he doesn't seem to be as affected by it like the way Janessa was.
Yes, he is. He's like his business has tanked as a result of this. Remember, he had
Has it?
It's gotten all of his social media taken down.
Oh, geez, I didn't realize
and
that.
he's a professional makeup artist who needs the online presence.
I'm not saying like he was fine with it.
He still gets to be a leather daddy, but his...
Yeah, but we got to get into that. Yeah,
I like
Love
those
that.
pictures.
So, Toby, what do you think of this group of women? I mean, I think it's a little bit unclear, and I could be wrong, that they were all targeted by the same person, but they were certainly all targeted by people with using the same photo. And, they were targeted in different ways, including the woman who was playing Words with Friends. And, he sort of slid into her Scrabble DMs that way. But what do you think of this group of women? Because the one thing I really liked about this documentary is that Kevin said this was sort of about women of a certain age, but all these women were not the same woman. They were all very different women who were focused on in this story.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't think it was the same person who was swindling all four of them. I mean, that
would be a crazy coincidence.
Yeah. I mean, there was no reason to believe that. Yeah. I just thought it shows how effective the scam is, right? Is that you can take these, like the Gabby, who's the woman from, I think she's in Frankfurt.
But she's Austrian, right? Originally?
She's Austrian, but she's living in Germany. I mean, she's obviously very wealthy. Like she ends up giving him like millions of dollars. And then you have a waitress from Canada. You've got an obviously well-off but bored woman from Connecticut. And then you have this like very sort of sad and depressing story about this woman from Alabama who basically gives every last cent she has. So it's just the fact that this playbook, which is like a literal playbook that they run on these people, it seems like it's pretty universally effective. Like if you find somebody who's inclined to engage in that way online, that it sort of crosses social class and even like international borders as to what can draw women in. And then the whole first part of it, you're just like, all right, so when's the request for money going to come?
Yeah.
So it's just, you're just watching the time go by. It's like, okay, how's this all going to work?
It's interesting to me because, when we watch The Remarkable Life of Evelyn, Kevin, I mean, one of the reasons I love that documentary so much is because it really does a wonderful job illustrating that for people who have online relationships, they are real relationships. It is a real relationship. So of course, these scammers take advantage of that dynamic that real relationships can and do take place online, like real connections and real friendships. And these women, Laura, are so, I mean, they really seem to be seeking something, but it's also very normal in a way. And then we meet Brian, who is the face behind all the scams, who's gay and a leather daddy and a makeup artist and, puts aside some of his time to deal with all of this. But you had a note about something that happens at the end that I think is very telling about the mindset of at least some of these women.
Oh, yeah. So I thought this was super interesting. First of all, they're all forming this relationship with him as they're, going to try to crack down and find the real scammers. But then they're working with that guy who is like the online investigator, forensic guy who helps people in romance scams. And they all go to Brian's place, the three of them. You have Annette and you have Gabby and you have Roxy came in remotely, I think. You had the sister of the woman who died that came. And, Brian's making his little charcuterie plate and they're having their mimosas. And I'm like, okay, this looks fun. And I'm like, I want to go over some mimosas and charcuterie. But then at the end, they have this like, you know how we see these scenes where we're like, oh, they manufactured this scene. So they take them to the beach and they're out at the beach.
We need some good B-roll. So when people are talking to play.
Yeah. So we're going to take them out and they're walking in the beach in the water with their feet. And then Annette is like walking down the beach and like holds his hand. And you're like, oh, and you can see that she's the one who's really latched onto him. And then she's like, this is what I was promised by Mark, that we were going to go to the ocean and we were going to walk in the beach, and it came true.
I was hoping Brian would change his mind and not be gay anymore. And like, I wonder if it'd have a chance. But my brain is trying to tell me, get your head out of your ass. You're not thinking normal here.
Good luck with that, Annette.
But it was indicative of this whole show, because it's like, how easy is it for these women to just get sucked into the narrative that they want to believe? And you see it also with the woman in Germany when she starts sending money to this other guy who's a reform scammer. You're like, but it's sad, because it's like, what is missing? What has happened in these women's lives where they're so quick to respond to a stranger, even though
they're good at it, Laura. The strangers are good at it. That's what's.
But Brian, just because he's a nice gay guy, like in that scene, I was just cringing. I was like, oh, this poor, like, no, Annette, no,
Yeah.
no, it's a tsunami. No, I'm just like, no.
Laura, I was totally with you on that thing too, because it was sort of a passing thing, but it caught me, and I thought it was really big, actually.
Yeah.
Because you're right, yeah, and that's the one from Ottawa. So she's never been to the ocean, as she says, but she just seemed, leading up to the end here, the saddest of, and I don't mean that judgmentally, I just mean that she just seemed,
literally the saddest.
She just seemed really sad, right? And then, right, you get to this thing, and the language that she used, I can't remember if she said that she wished that Brian either decided not to be gay chose not to be gay. Again, sort of implying that, like, if only he could change for her. So aside from the fact that that's not how sexual orientation works, Annette.
Well, you can't pray it away, Kevin?
You can't pray. You can't just decide, oh, I decided that today I'm, you just, even in Ottawa, that's not how it works. I think there's some
lawmakers who said that that's how it works.
It doesn't, fuck those people. So, but again, it was just sort of sad, because like she saw, like, this is the 3-dimensional real life rendering of the fantasy that I've had. This guy, right? And so I can see how powerful that is, but that was so vivid to her that, especially when it happened, or there was a facsimile of that happening in front of her, she went back there and felt that. And I certainly want to go back to, I think, was it Gabby who decided...
we'll talk about Gabby.
Her meeting with the cat guy. But this whole idea that, like, that fantasy is so powerful. And I think what Toby was saying this earlier, what it reveals is sort of human truths, right? About the fact that people, they're looking for something. And even like when poor Roxy, she's, she has to explain herself in her kitchen with all the lights and the scrim set up and everything, or, this whole crew around her having to try to explain how she also had to explain to her adult children
and her husband
why she sent all this money to this handsome guy that she never met. It's not completely a sex fantasy. That's not completely why they did it.
Huh. Toby, what do you think about Brian? Because we have this big twist at the end of episode 1 where all of a sudden you see that we're going to meet this guy, the face. So they spend some time in a section that really sticks out, doesn't really fit with the story at all, just sort of like showing us who Brian is and all the stuff he does and the stuff he's into. What did you think about him? Do you think he was interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was like the most interesting thing about this whole documentary, which the bar is fairly low as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, he's an interesting, like, he's got a lot of facets to him. In one way, he's like, I guess, part of the bear gay community in Los Angeles. He also like talks about like sort of pushing the boundaries, I guess, both sort of sexually and socially. You see him in all kinds of sort of fetish clothing, I guess. He's walking around with leather chaps and a leather vest. There's all kinds of different sort of thongs and stuff you get to see him wearing. And then he's also got this makeup tutorial business or whatever, where he presents very sort of conservatively, I guess you would say, at least compared to that. It just looks like sort of a normal dude. And then the other thing is he just seems like a very nice person, right? So when this all happens, like, he definitely feels victimized and he feels bad about what's happened to his business and stuff, but he also feels very bad and somewhat responsible for what's happened to these women, because apparently there must be thousands of women who've been scammed by people using his face And so I think the people who were doing the documentary must have introduced him to these 3 women or whatever, because he just sort of gloms onto these 3 women, or they to him. And that's who he forms these relationships with. And he has sort of online and in-person meetings with them and stuff. So anyway, he comes off as being an interesting guy and very likable and doing, I think, what he sees as the right thing by these women who fell in love with his picture, essentially.
You know what else is likable is joining our Patreon.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we're in the business section, Kevin. I just threw it your way.
Those relationships are real relationships, too.
Yeah.
We're on an oil rig. We need you to send us money.
Send us money every month.
Kevin.
A very small amount.
Tiny, and you get a lot back.
Tiny. If you go to patreon.com/partners in crime media for only $5 a month, you can join our leading off level where you get exclusive content,
so
including
much stuff.
the Crime Writers on After Show, Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, our Married with Podcast Advice podcast, and the Readathon. From closing arguments in the Karen Reed trial and beyond, you can get all of Rebecca's hot takes on the hottest murder trial du jour. You also can join us for just $1 more at the Bricker scale level, where you will get Laura Bricker's exclusive Leave It to Bricker podcast, in which Laura solves mysteries, or at least mysteries to her, in her quaint AF town of Exeter, New Hampshire, and beyond. If you join us at the Let's Do What We Do level, you'll get episodes of Crime Writers on early and ad-free. And if you are a deep diver, you get all of that, but you also get to be there in the room, digitally speaking, when Toby does the recordings for his Deep Dive Book Club podcast. The latest book Toby is talking about is called American Fire. Now, another way you can help us is by supporting us at Amazon. You shop at Amazon, right? We have an Amazon storefront where you can go see some of our favorite things. Rebecca, can you tell us what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
Well, Kevin, as you know, our laundry room is now complete.
Our bathroom laundry room.
All weekend cleaning the basement, which was covered with dust and was just covered with detritus of stuff we've been throwing down here for many years, because we have this party coming up that we're throwing this weekend. And I thought, it's still a little musty down here, because even though it's a walkout, it's still under level.
You're really building this up. What is the recommendation?
I bought some Reed diffusers for down here.
Okay,
and
great.
they're really good. They smell really good. They're not overwhelmingly air freshenery. I super like them.
And Toby Ball, can you take even longer to tell us what your listener-inspired Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations are?
I realize that Rebecca's thrown us off schedule, so I'll start off with lemon, one each.
Oh.
All right, yeah.
And then second, this is from Clothing and Accessories. Baby Bird Funny Infant Shirts, Cube Baby Creeper Family Adorable Infant Bodysuit, Funny Baby Onesies, Cool Animal Onesie, Novelty Onesie, Light Gray Newborn.
A creeper. Is that one of the words to describe it?
It is a creeper, yep.
A creeper. All right, super.
It's a baby creeper family, or maybe it's a creeper family. I don't know. Are they vines? Are they just disturbing people? I don't know.
I think it's the thing that does it describe the actual piece of clothing? Like it's a thing that kids will creep. I don't know.
Creepers? Is that what they call now? Like what do you get for your baby? I got him a creeper. I don't know.
Well, you get all that great stuff if you shop us first when you go to amazon.com/shop/Crime Writers On. Just go once, just take a look around, and then go do the other shopping you're going to do. We earn commissions on qualified purchases.
Kevin, before we wrap up the business section,
yes,
do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Courtney Newman and Katie Healy. Bless you.
Courtney, Katie, thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. Your patronage means so much. We put out this podcast for free on all of the apps, but we can only do it because listeners like you support our work. And that's why we've been able to do this for 10 years. Right, Kevin?
Yes.
All right. So does that end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
Torrid fits don't miss. From life-changing jeans to cute tops and dresses to bras that are actually comfortable, Torrid has your dream wardrobe covered in sizes 10 to 30. Discover Torrid's unforgettable new brands like Breezy Romantic Festy, Goth and Gorgeous Nightfall, Vintage Retro Chic, and Preppy Pretty Belle Isle. Torrid, for every day, every way, and everything you are. Shop Torrid.com and use promo code PODCAST40 for 40% off your first online order. Terms and conditions will apply. Void where prohibited.
Wow. Incredible. Amazing. Lumify Redness Reliever Eye Drops really work.
They dramatically reduce redness in 1 minute.
I love how my eyes look whiter and brighter.
And it lasts for up to 8 hours.
They make my eyes look refreshed.
Lumify? It's kind of amazing. It was love at first sight.
With Lumify.
Try it for yourself. Learn more at lumifyeyes.com.
Hey, Kevin, who's our next sponsor?
Our next sponsor is HelloFresh.
Hola, Fresco.
Springtime is all about spending time outside with good company and good food. Now, I'll tell you, okay, Rebecca, you just remember, I'm going to relive this trauma from yesterday.
Oh, boy.
So umpiring a baseball game.
You're an umpire.
The home team was up 12-4 going into the 6th inning.
Then what happened?
Well, the other team came back after 4 pitching changes.
Yeah?
A whole bunch of walks. I thought
a murder? Was it a murder?
It was a murder.
What happened? What was the final score?
It was 20-12. Nice. And I only bring this up because I thought I was going home to dinner, and then 45 minutes later, I had to leave.
So, you were starving.
I was starving. So, how do you start making dinner at that point? You really can't.
So easy when you got HelloFresh in your fridge, though.
Absolutely. Some of the great meals that you can make fast. 10 minutes it takes. The cheesy chicken and bell pepper tacos.
Nice.
That was great. But they also have ready-made meals that you can make in 3 minutes, like the sweet sesame udon with chicken and red peppers. You just heat them and eat them.
I love udon.
But that doesn't mean you can't do some nice fancy stuff. Among the gourmet meals that I'm looking forward to making this week, sirloin in a mushroom sauce with caramelized onions? Oh, all right. Onion, mashed potatoes, and roasted carrots.
Nice. So feel great with meals that fit your spring schedule, even your spring umpiring schedule, and make the season even more delicious. Go to HelloFresh.com/CWO10FM.
10FM?
CWO10FM. Do that now to get 10 free meals with a free item for life.
10FM, okay.
1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. So, Laura.
Yes.
We got to talk about Cat Guy.
Oh,
this
God.
Is the alleged former Nigerian scammer who hooks up with one of the ladies, the woman from Austria, who's going to basically, help counsel her through dealing with her, scammer, finding him or something. And he literally shows up to all of their meetings like that lawyer did for that courtroom appearance with a cat head on. Thoughts?
Oh my God. I was like, oh my God. That was during the early Zoom days when that lawyer showed up and that kind of went viral. And I'm like,
I'm not a cat.
I am ready to proceed.
I'm a lawyer.
What a great episode 2 cliffhanger.
That phenomenon has made it to Nigeria only a few years late because it was in the playbook that they got online. So that was super interesting because, first you're listening to it and you're like, oh, this is interesting. Why would a former scammer be willing to talk to this lady, Gabby? And then you're like, So I'm starting to get kind of that feeling. And she's really buying into this. She's feeling, because she's just like, I am going to solve this. I am going to get to the bottom of this, who my scammer is. And then she starts sending him money. And I'm like, no.
I gave him money, but it was not a scam. I invested in him.
It wasn't a scam.
No.
You helped. You helped that real person.
I don't know if I trust him or not.
Again, it's like what I was saying before. It's like that narrative that you buy into because you want to believe it. And she's like, I want to believe that this is somebody out of the good of their heart that has seen the error of their ways and they want to help me. And I'm going to help them now start a legitimate business. And I'm like, okay, so how is this any different than what was happening before? Because she was the one that also sent a lot of money to that guy.
Yes.
What'd you think of Brian's poker face when she told him that?
I'm watching him and I'm like, oh, he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. And then he's like,
he is. How could he not?
But he did finally come out and kind of broach the subject with her.
Are you sure you're not being scammed?
No,
again?
He's a cat. I like cats. Who doesn't like cats? I want him to get a better cat filter so that when we talk, it's more realistic, like AI.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting because I think they had 3 different women here that all had very different circumstances, but they have that commonality where they are very easily drawn into the belief that somebody is sincere when you or I watching are like, oh, this is totally not a real person, or oh, this is totally a scam, but they all have that commonality of wanting to believe these people.
Yeah, Kevin, before the break, we were talking about Brian.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about Brian, like, you know, and his role in the story?
Well, I like Brian a lot. I think that he, you know, it was very nice of him to, like, he didn't have to befriend any of these women. He could just, right? And I think that says something about him. But one of the things that the way they presented Brian, which just tonally was very different from the whole series, was when he talks about being a leather daddy.
Yeah.
I mean, first of
Pumping
all,
gas and chaps.
Yeah, that's like the first thing. All of a sudden, like, we're in the backseat of his car, like the views, like the camera's in the backseat of his car, and he's going to pump gas. I'm like, why is he dressed like one of the village people?
A leather daddy is masculine. A leather daddy likely would have a beard. A leather daddy is rugged and he's tough and he's, you know, a well-built man and he looks amazing in his leathers and he's hot.
That just kind of comes out of nowhere. And it's this whole thing, and I'm not yucking anybody's yum, right? Yeah. It's fine. But it just was, all of a sudden they're going to throw in him and his partner at some leather party, which certainly doesn't fit the tone of the rest of this romance scam.
Especially after it did.
You thought it did?
Yes.
All happy.
I'll make a case
and
for it in
the
a
red
second.
light and the blue lights and you thought, I will know the exact minute that Laura Bricker sees this because we will all get a message in Slack about this. And we did. I looked at this and I was like, she just covered her mouth and then she immediately picked up her phone and I know exactly what happened. And it was just like, it just felt I don't know.
Different.
I think, right. And it's like, not saying like don't include that or like even use the images. I just felt like they just kind of all of a sudden went disco in the middle of this thing where it's been very kind of sad. Right.
So I actually really think that it did fit. And here's why. Okay. So I think that there's something very balanced about the documentary because these women have to open up if they're going to participate in this and tell some things that people might judge them for, right? I think wrongly judge them for, right? But we also get a slice of their life. Like the woman in Connecticut, the Words with Friends woman, I mean, her life seems pretty small. You know, she talks about how her husband never wanted to talk after work. You know, he wasn't really interested in engaging with her. So she got really into playing Words with Friends and right. And like, I mean, so we have this like extended scene of her sort of acting out what her life is like. We meet Brian, you know, he almost immediately tells us that his parents are conservative and homophobic, right? And then he reveals what his life is like. It's just balanced. And just because his life is different doesn't mean that he shouldn't be asked to be as vulnerable as they were. And I actually really liked it that he let us into all these aspects of his life. I was thinking, though, you just told us how conservative your parents are and how like awkward it is when you go home for the holidays. What's it going to be like this year, Brian?
I wasn't commenting on Brian. I was kind of commenting on the filmmakers' use of how they're how they fit that into the whole story.
Yeah,
because they didn't want it to be sensational.
No, it just is what it is.
They picked all sorts of different outfits. Like it gave you a plethora of options if you were looking into leather.
A plethora of options. So, Toby, let's talk about this other part of the scam that we hear about through Kathy. And apparently this is very common. And I think we heard about this in another scam podcast we listened to that had to do with like gift cards and stuff, where it was
scam likely.
Yeah. So what did you think about this idea that some of these women who are scammed by these men are also getting pulled in as agents of the scam by doing money laundering and money muling and all that stuff?
Yeah, so she apparently keeps like these very detailed records of everything she does. So after she passes and her sister and niece start going through her bins full of receipts and stuff, they kind of uncover this situation in which she's getting sent cash and then I guess sending it on to other people. So it was kind of intriguing, although I never really felt like I understood exactly what was going on other than it was money laundering and clearly part of the larger scam. But it's just like something the Nigerians are somehow choreographing and to what end and stuff.
To get money.
Yeah, they need somebody to mule it. And so that was her role in the scam.
It's all part of the ladder. It's like a pyramid scheme. And in the other podcast we listened to, they were having people go get gift cards and there was somebody waiting and getting the gift card. But like a person can go into Western Union or whatever and get cash more easily than someone who's been there 100 times before. doing the same thing. So I think that's kind of what it's about.
All right. To be quite honest, I found this show so boring that it wouldn't surprise me if I just kind of had zoned out when that part happened. But I thought, her story is, none of these stories are happy, but her story seems especially tragic in that she essentially dies from malnutrition because she's not feeding herself and she's given most of her money off to these scammers. And her niece and sister seem to have these sort of feelings of both sadness and anger and just wishing there was some way they could have intervened more effectively.
Yeah.
And if this is the first thing I'd ever seen about something like this, I'd be like, how could she possibly have felt like what she was doing was helping her cause or whatever? But I think we know that once you're kind of sucked into these things, you're so malleable. And that's just sort of, it's not a sign of any person's weakness or whatever. It's just sort of human nature. So, yeah, that whole part and her sister, who you see quite a bit, just seems like completely broken by the whole experience.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a rough part of it to take in.
Laura, we meet an investigator here whose basically whole deal is tracking down scammers, seeing if people are scammers, using IP addresses, tracing the digital evidence. What do you think about this guy and his work?
Well, I thought that was super interesting because I've often been like, oh, we should do our PI services for these women that are online dating to do background checks. But he's coming in after they've done not even online dating, wherever they're meeting these men and trying to help them. And I think what I was struck by was just that this is so prevalent that law enforcement doesn't seem to have the resources to follow up and try to stop this. So people that find themselves in these situations are relying on these private companies that do this sort of online investigative work. And then going from there to the fact that then that person is taking all of the work and all of the investigation they've done and turning it over to the authorities and turning it over to Meta and Facebook and Instagram or whatever. And nothing is getting done.
Meanwhile, Brian's business is being wrecked.
I was just so frustrated by this because I'm like, okay, so he turns it, he's found how many identified, 100 profiles. And then it was and this long later, only 18 of them have been taken down. And I'm thinking, Brian, how is this guy ever going to come back from this? You've had somebody do a forensic online investigation and you just can't get ahead of this. He is never going to be able to get ahead of this. So I was good for this private guy who is very enthusiastic about, and we did this and we did that, especially when he, zooms in with them when they're having their charcuterie and everything. But at the end of the day, how much money did they spend for this guy to do that investigation so that then the people that could actually do something about it are well, we really don't have the resources and, Facebook is going to do what they're going to do. And then telling Brian, actually, your profile looks suspicious.
Yeah.
It was just so maddening to me because it feels so what's the answer? Awareness? But the problem is that the people with the personality traits that are getting sucked into this are not going to listen to the awareness, which is why they are still getting scammed.
Torrid fits don't miss. From life-changing jeans to cute tops and dresses to bras that are actually comfortable, Torrid has your dream wardrobe covered in sizes 10 to 30. Discover Torrid's unforgettable new brands like breezy romantic festy, goth and gorgeous nightfall, vintage retro chic, and preppy pretty Belle Isle. Torrid, for every day, every way, and everything you are. Shop Torrid.com and use promo code PODCAST40 for 40% off your first online order. Terms and conditions will apply. Void where prohibited.
Explore the world's hidden wonders on the Atlas Obscura podcast. A village in India where everyone's name is a song. A boiling river in the Amazon. A spacecraft cemetery in the middle of the ocean. Every day, the Atlas Obscura podcast will blow your mind in 15 minutes. You can find it on the SiriusXM app, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode.
We all have that piece. You know the one. The thing that's so you've basically become known for it. And if you don't have yours yet, you'll find it on eBay. Let me put you on, fashionistas. eBay is where you'll find those one-of-a-kind, can't stop researching, stay up dreaming about pieces. I'm talking that Miu Miu off the runway red leather bomber, the Custo Barcelona top with the cowboy on it, or that Patagonia fleece in the 2017 colorway. All these finds are on eBay, and they even offer millions of main character pieces backed by authenticity guarantee. eBay is the place for pre-loved and vintage fashion. eBay, things people love.
Airwick Essential Mist Diffuser transforms your space, creating your perfect ambiance with a wide range of inviting fragrances that make your guests go... Oh. Airwick Essential Mist Diffuser's easy-to-change refills allow you to choose your perfect fragrance for any occasion, like lush honeysuckle and raspberry, and vibrant island coconut and warm sands. And if guests start shifting from the table to the couches, no worries. It's perfectly portable and cordless. Airwick Essential Mist Diffuser, always inviting.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out the 3-part documentary, Hey Beautiful, Anatomy of a Romance Scam. It's streaming on Hulu. Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for Hey Beautiful?
Yeah, I'll give this a thumbs up. I thought this was really interesting. I liked how we begin with one part of the story in the first episode, and then at the end, it flipped in a way that I wasn't expecting. There was something that happens, and you're like, oh, that wasn't where I thought this story was going. We've done other romance scandal stories and documentaries and podcasts, but this was done in a way that I found interesting. You know, we have the character of Brian, who was an interesting perspective to have in this. We have perspectives of different women. And how can you go wrong with a cat filter on a Zoom, which is another component to this show? So this was interesting. It's a thumbs up for me.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Hey Beautiful?
I'll have to be honest. I did not find this very interesting. I feel like this is the kind of thing we've seen before. I feel like the dynamics that are at play are things that we've seen before. It's not really the fault of the documentary that we've seen other things like it, but the whole thing just felt pretty predictable because we've seen how these things work. And it was just like, all right, so when are they going to start asking for money? And when are these women going to locate each other? And when, so it's all this sort of model we've seen before. It's put together fine. I mean, I think the people they have are fine. They don't really stick out to me as being particularly unusual or interesting, with the possible exception of one of the people who's sort of at the middle of this. So yeah, in the end, I found myself struggling to get through it. I kept waiting for some surprise to pop up and nothing ever did. So I'm a thumbs down.
Kevin Flynn.
I guess I'm a mild thumbs up on this. It is very much like other stories that we've seen as far as the romance con. The difference is that we have a sort of a different demographic of victims and different kinds of schemes. It's not necessarily sex related, it's intimacy related. And they're able to use that kind of hook to get people to fall for this scam. I found that there's a lot of sadness in the people who were victimized, and there are more victims than you kind of realize here. There's a couple of interesting twists. I did think that when we get into sort of the investigation part at the end, that are really slowed down. So for that reason, it's not going to be juicy like some other things like Tinder Swindler, like Love Janessa, like Scam Likely, some of these other kinds of online scams that we've seen covered before. The players are very different. For that reason, it's probably worth a watch, but it's also okay if you skip it too. But I'm keep talking myself down here, but I'm going to stay where I was. Mild thumbs up.
Well, I liked it. I'm a thumbs up for this documentary. I think that documentaries like this can't win on some level. And I'm not saying any of you guys feel this way, because I know you don't. Either the women end up becoming like they're so gullible. How did they do this? And the bottom line is scammers are good at scamming. And I liked this documentary because I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm 51 years old. I get these DMs all of the time.
Should I be concerned about our bank account?
No, you shouldn't. But it's always like a guy who says he's in the military, overseas, or retired military, or a widow, or a dentist. And it's like, I know that I have gotten DMs with this picture. I know that I have. And to me, there's something intriguing about focusing on this one slice of this world that I really liked. And also, Kevin, you mentioned that, when they get into the explanation of the stuff, it slowed down for you. For me, I'm like, I feel like the documentary couldn't win there, because if they kept that really tight and didn't tell you how it worked, we'd probably be complaining about that. So I think that it was given some gravity. I liked the sort of equal opportunity vulnerability between the women they featured and the man that they featured, really getting inside their minds and taking us to a place that I'm sure was very hard for them to be able to expose themselves and tell that story. So I liked it. I found it entertaining, interesting, and I liked a lot of the people in it very much, including a central character who kind of sort of comes in as a surprise. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
So this comes from one of our regular listeners who often sends me little DMs on Instagram and doesn't ask for money.
Not yet.
Carol Kitty Foster up in Ontario. So I don't know about you guys, but whenever I see like our local SPCA posting like cats that have come in for adoption or dogs, the ones that always like really make me sad is when like the owner was elderly and died, or the owner went into a nursing home. And I'm always like, and the cat has only known that one home or something. And I'm always like, oh, this poor cat, I need another cat. I'm like, I don't need another cat. However, there is an organization in Canada called My Grandfather's Cat. And it helps seniors and terminally ill people feed and arrange second forever homes for their pets in Canada. And it specifically works with cats that need to find a home. They're kind of a unique set of the cat population, not cats that are being taken because of neglect or something. So here's one story. Get your tissues, people. When Angela's grandfather passed away, she took his grumpy 14-year-old cat, Mackenzie. She never expected that cat to change her life or lead to a nonprofit called My Grandfather's Cat that has now helped hundreds of animals find their second forever families. So very sweet. I always like, who's going to take my cats? Yeah. I'm not planning on dying, but
you never know, Laura.
You never know.
We all die, right?
That's we all do. So My Grandfather's Cat, very good organization. Go check out their Instagram and you can see some very sweet stories.
I love the name of that organization. It kind of reminds me of that commercial you see, A Home for Mom or whatever, a place for mom. Toby, we'll talk about it after we finish taping. Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you online, of course they can email us their animals, any kind of animal to be cat of the week at crimewriterson@gmail.com. But if they want to reach out to you on social, how can they find you there?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Instagram and Blue Sky.
What about you, Toby? How can you be found online?
At Toby Ball NH on Blue Sky.
What about you, Kevin?
I'm Kevin P. Flynn, everywhere.
You can find me everywhere, mostly for Karen Reed and journalism stuff, at X at Reb Lavoie. For the rest of me, at Blue Sky at Reb Lavoie. And you can also find me on Instagram at Reb Lavoie. Follow the show literally everywhere, including TikTok at Crime Writers On. We're easy to find. It's really fun. Kevin makes some great TikToks about the show. You can get all the stuff we make on Patreon at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons, and our editor is the truly wonderful Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also begin questionable relationships with leather daddies we meet on Words with Friends. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. All right. Who needs to drink or go to the bathroom or anything, or can we move on?
I think we can move on.
All right. Hold on. Let me do my giant drink. I like this cup because it makes me look small.
Yeah, it does make you look tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Partners in Crime Media.
Torrid fits don't miss. From life-changing jeans to cute tops and dresses to bras that are actually comfortable, Torrid has your dream wardrobe covered in sizes 10 to 30. Discover Torrid's unforgettable new brands like breezy romantic festy, goth and gorgeous nightfall, vintage retro chic, and preppy pretty Belle Isle. Torrid, for every day, every way, and everything you are. Shop Torrid.com and use promo code PODCAST40 for 40% off your first online order. Terms and conditions will apply. Void where prohibited.
Explore the world's hidden wonders on the Atlas Obscura podcast. A village in India where everyone's name is a song. A boiling river in the Amazon. A spacecraft cemetery in the middle of the ocean. Every day, the Atlas Obscura podcast will blow your mind in 15 minutes. You can find it on the SiriusXM app, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode.
I've never felt like this before. It's like you just get me. I feel like my true self with you. Does that sound crazy? And it doesn't hurt that you're gorgeous. Okay, that's it. I'm taking you home with me. I mean, you can't find shoes this good just anywhere. Find a shoe for every you from brands you love, like Birkenstock, Nike, Adidas, and more at your DSW store or DSW.com.